Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we find ourselves on the cusp of Disney's big venture into the world of streaming and even courting a war in the process, we thought it'd be nice to stay up to date on the ever-growing catalog and roll on what's a must or a bust on Disney Plus. And tonight we're talking WandaVision episode 5. It's a very special episode. And for a very special episode, we have a very special guest star. Give it up for Mr. Conner Nielson.
Woo!
Hello, everybody.
How you doing, Conner?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, great to have you on board. This season's kind of been like a rotating panel of guest stars talking WandaVision. So, nice to have you on board. Hopefully this is one of many appearances from you on the channel.
Yeah, I'd like to. I've been watching your guys' show last couple your guys' content the last couple of weeks, and I really like what you guys do.
Oh, I appreciate that. We have our moments.
Well,
we also have our we have our moments, both positive and negative. I like to think.
I like to think of myself as the person who likes to stay on top of movies, and then in 2020, I just let that go entirely. So your guys' video talking about the best movies of last year was very insightful and helpful for me.
I appreciate that, man. Appreciate that. Yeah. All right. So we have Donovan in the comments, and my God, Donovan has been on a roll. Dragon, before we get to anyone else's opinions on this show, do you think we should just address Donovan because he's just been sitting here chomping at the bits?
I guess. It sounds to me like he's feeling the season. He's feeling the episode. I think that's kind of the overall impression I'm getting.
Can't stop listening to Daydream Believer. I'm with you, Donovan. Let's see. I guess if I were to spotlight one comment from Donovan's, it would be this. The part where Wanda was down to her kids' level, telling them not to grow up and therefore run away from their feelings. You could just see the utter and absolute heartbreak in her eyes, not only for them, but also herself. Yeah, very, very much. We'll get into it.
I know, that's great.
How you doing, Claude? Nice to have you on board, as always. Nice to see you. Okay, so Conner, before we dive into episode 5, why don't we just kind of catch everyone up on what's your thoughts on WandaVision, like the first 4 episodes?
Okay, yeah, I remember when those first 2 episodes dropped. It was awesome because that was the most excited I had been about the Marvel Cinematic Universe in like a few years. The MCU in general is not I feel like in the last several years there's sort of been a tide of it's not that good actually. I kind of went through that in 2011, 2012 when I was in high school. And so I think around 2014 I really kind of got on the Marvel's wavelength, and
2014 was a great year for Marvel, man. Winter Soldier and Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, you know it.
Was. And when I was a senior in high school is when Iron Man 3 came out, and I really didn't like that movie when it came out, but then when I revisited it, every time I kind of go through these, I've really grown a fondness for that. I actually really love Age of Ultron, and so over the years, I do have a sort of defensiveness for Marvel, but at the same time, Marvel movies are never in my top 10 of a year. I just think they're producing consistently solid work.
Dragon knows something about that on my end, Conner. I can relate. It's always frustrating for Dragon when I don't put MCU stuff on my top 10s.
I did love Endgame though. I think as far as big Hollywood epic, it was probably the most ambitious thing that was realized in a satisfying way that I would.
3 movies in 1 keeps getting better as it goes on.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's in the league of Lord of the Rings, but it definitely gets close in some places. And that's
I'm in that weird camp that prefers Infinity War, honestly. Endgame's great, but I think Infinity War as a film just kind of flows a little bit better.
I can see that. I think it's weird because the plot and the events of Infinity War flow in a much it feels like an event comic.
Thanos is obviously in Infinity War way more memorable. I think for me that's the big thing.
Well, that's because he's the one humbled by defeat and everything. He's the cool complimentary Thanos. That's why.
And then I think that Endgame, though, I think it has a stronger emotional core to it. It has a lot more problems with it, but I also think that on a visceral level, I find it more satisfying and engaging. And I think they do cool stuff with Thanos in there. I don't want to get into that because we're not talking about Endgame, but we're talking about WandaVision. And I think that WandaVision, though, it was when they had announced the Phase 4 slate, the movie I was most excited for was probably Thor: Love and Thunder, and then the TV show I was most excited for was WandaVision. And then just sort of seeing that poster that they had originally done for WandaVision a ways back for D23, and the title card they had for it, I was I think I know what they're going for, just kind of based on this. And then when they dropped those episodes, it was the best version of what I could have hoped for in my head was those first 2 episodes. And so it was really, really exciting to me. And then the third episode, I still really liked, but I felt like the first episode is still probably my favorite. I think that with these episodes, they follow a pretty similar structure the way most sitcoms do. I find that in the back half, the sitcom plot maybe gets a little too repetitive.
I agree there, yeah.
But I still find it consistently humorous, and I never don't enjoy watching it, which was a huge shock to me that I kind of hated the 4th episode.
Whoa! Hot take!
Yeah,
hot take!
I know,
Wow!
Burn my hand on that hot take, man.
I'm learning this is a very hot take. I really don't like the sword stuff. And I think that it's like watching 5-year-olds dressing up and playing NCIS. I feel like the concept seems to be like the sitcom stuff is humorous, so this is a comedy show. But I think that the sword stuff needs to be more serious and not so goofy. I don't know what it is. I got issues with the sword stuff. So
not a Kat Dennings fan, I take it.
Look, I was not a big fan of her in the first Thor movie, but I thought she was serviceable. I think she was even more annoying in the second Thor movie, but hey, you know what? I don't dislike Kat Dennings. And then so I'm like, hey, you know what? She's gonna show up in this WandaVision show. I'm very curious to see what they do with her. And I didn't think it was possible to make her more annoying, and whoa.
I strongly disagree with that sentiment. I thought we finally cracked the code with her here.
That's the thing. I'm running into a lot of people who feel the same way that you do, Dragon. And so I feel like I'm kind of like a crazy person on an island, but that's okay. I'm glad people are digging it. I don't know. I feel like I'm right now those people who hate Ragnarok. I feel like they feel where it seems like everybody is okay with it, and I'm like, I don't get what people are liking about it.
Dragon and I, we're good friends with a guy who hates the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and every time it gets brought up, we're like, how? But how? They're so good.
Yeah. So maybe we'll get into the latest episode, but if I had to give broad thoughts, I'm pretty 50-50 on it, because the sitcom stuff I continue to really, really like, and I could go into a whole breakdown of the style and all the stuff that I like what it's doing there, and it's still doing that and still good, and I like the progression we get there. But the sword stuff is still just not working for me. So that's my kind of general thoughts on the episode.
All right, really quick before Dragon and I give our thoughts on the episode, Claude asked, what are your thoughts on the new trailer Falcon and Winter Soldier? I have not seen it yet, but have either of you two seen it?
Tiki, how did you miss it? It came on during the thing.
I wasn't watching the game, Dragon.
Oh, yeah, you were watching the commercials. That was a commercial.
I was watching Cobra Kai, Dragon.
But I'm
sorry. Anyways.
Anyway. Yes, I've seen the Falcon Winter Soldier trailer, because of course that's my most anticipated MCU Disney Plus show coming up. This trailer has a little bit more what I was looking for. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the other one. The other one's still kind of hyped. Honestly, still out of both of these trailers, I don't think I'm going to go back to another one, given how close it's going to be when it premieres. I was hoping for more U.S. Agent. I'm so excited to get into U.S. Agent in this show, and it's probably one of my most anticipated things, kind of going into it. But they're keeping it tight on U.S. Agent, but they tease something major and really cool. We didn't see it in Flangrata, but we got a little tease at it with our bad guy, and I was like, oh boy, it's coming! It's gonna be so cool. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it, and they really played up kind of the fun dynamic of Mackie and Sebastian Stan, as kind of co-caps, as it were. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
I'm still just really not a fan of the title.
Well, again, if they do another one, perhaps they'll just call it like Sam Wilson, Captain America, or something. I don't know.
Look, it's too many thes. The fact that there's two thes is what really bothers me.
I'm sorry, the grammar of
literally
awesomeness
just
doesn't
Falcon
appeal to you.
and Winter Soldier instead of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, like I would be more okay with that.
Yeah, I feel like someone's like, I got an idea. It's a show about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Like, oh, cool. What's the title? The Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
It just doesn't roll off the tongue, man.
Yeah, it looks really good.
You got to listen to Justin Timberlake and the Social Network. Drop the.
Yeah.
Just Facebook. It's cleaner.
It's cleaner. Yeah, I have not seen the latest preview, but everything I have seen before this latest preview, it gets my hopes up. I'm pretty excited about that.
All right. Okay, so Connor, it's like honestly, I'm kind of beaming right now a little bit because this is like I genuinely don't know if I've seen a review that doesn't like the sword stuff. So this is an interesting take. I'm actually kind of excited. I personally am kind of like halfway between you and Dragon. I assume probably just digs it all, right, Dragon?
I enjoyed the sword stuff a great deal. Yeah.
I see your point with the Darcy stuff. However, I feel like Jimmy Woo is really the glue for me that holds the sword stuff together. And it's really interesting that you didn't like episode 4, just because I feel like episode 4, even with the Kat Denning stuff, and rest assured, I mean, I have my problems with that character as well. And I honestly don't think she's been as fixed as some people lead to believe. I think she's still pretty much the same character she was in the Thor movies. I think the difference is that she's bouncing off of better characters than there were in the Thor movies. But I don't know. I really did think that episode 4 was kind of like this weird kind of like meta sort of like take on things. And so going into episode 5, it did what we were expecting it to. It kind of like we split sort of like half in the sitcom, half in the real world. And I got to tell you, I think going forward, this is the way to go with it. So yeah, I personally think this episode is easily like my favorite so far. I thought it had a lot of momentum. The Vision stuff in particular, I thought was phenomenal. I mean, Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen are just both absolutely killing it, as Donovan says in the comments here. I mean, they're just like they're on fire. They're great, and I don't know. I just think this show, like I will agree that the sitcom stuff is the stuff that I'm kind of leaning into a little bit more than the sword stuff. But I have a lot of faith that it's all going to kind of tie in together and have a really interesting impact on the MCU as a whole. I mean, sword is like for better or for worse, that is going to be a huge part of the MCU moving forward. So I do like that we're kind of like in the supporting characters of the show, we're kind of moving some chess pieces around in the broad spectrum of the MCU. All right, Dragon, what did you think of the episode?
Well, first of all, I just want to highlight some of Donovan's comments from earlier, as saying he really hopes that we're going to do an overview recap of WandaVision once all is said and done, kind of like an episode by episode sort of thing, which we will do that, Donovan.
Yeah, most likely, yes.
But yeah, so episode 5. For me, best episode yet. Really beginning to confront Wanda with her actions and kind of her grieving process via her own constructed reality, which is cool. And again, kind of the half and half thing we're doing. I love that it's kind of like we're kind of breaking the fourth wall in a big bad way here. Where kind of the two realities are bleeding into each other, and we've been building on this. And I thought that was really
just
cool.
recast Pietro?
Yeah. Some big stuff there. So I think this episode, I mean, again, we haven't even, every episode I keep thinking we're going to get to my most anticipated thing in this
the Halloween
season.
stuff.
Yes, I want to get to the Halloween thing,
yeah.
but I'm satiated though. It's like I want to get there, but this is great too. It's like
I would be stoked if the Halloween episode was the penultimate episode.
It's a good theory because I keep thinking it's going to be 6, but then again, I'm the guy who said that was going to be episode 4. So
it could very well be 6. Don't get me wrong. Could very well be 6.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Because again, I mean, I would have bet you the world.
Because I know there's going to be an Office style episode at some point.
True. I mean, I don't know. Like, it's kind of hard to place the decade on that. The Halloween thing, because it's Halloween. It could be 80s, could be 90s. Who knows? Could be Vision kind of going for something for Halloween for the office party.
You know what would be funny is if the sitcom era that they replicate with the Halloween episode is 80s throwback. So we'd get like a Goldberg style, like nostalgic throwback sitcom.
That's a good idea. I
like that
idea. Oh boy. And also T-Edge 1 in the comments. Hey, T-Edge.
How you doing, buddy? Nice to see you.
It says
I love how they answer every question and no question. Very Lost-like, right? It's like a better version of Lost. It's kind of like it's like a much more streamlined version of what Lost took forever to actually accomplish.
Right, so I guess all said, we should just kind of go around a little bit, right? Just kind of start with some stuff. Like I suppose like the '80s setting overall. So we're now in the '80s in a big bad way. I love that it's not the cliche necessarily again sitcom '80s, which is so rarely touched upon. It's always like movie '80s and big shoulder pads and this and that. But no, man, it's we have Wanda and they have great Wanda and suspenders stuff, man.
I feel like the look and vibe of this episode was like a perfect blend between Family Matters and Full House.
Yeah.
It looks like Bible Man. And that makes me laugh.
Of course, the Full House irony just bounced tremendously. Like, oh boy.
I love they are shooting on video now, old video. And so when you shoot on that, the colors are bleeding a little bit. I think that's a really cool visual way of conveying that the illusion is starting to break down a little bit, and I think that's really cool.
And we picked the right decade for it too, the '80s, kind of the beginnings of the we're kind of filtering struggling new parents through the '80s lens. Pretty neat, makes sense.
Okay, so first of all, we get the. I swear to God, that's going to be like the last gasp of like very traditional sitcom that we get in this show, because from that point on, all hell is just going to break loose.
How do we feel about Baby Vision?
So the opening was I felt hilarious because one, I love the Family Ties opening with the paintbrush. I was laughing so hard at that. But yeah, so the Baby Vision stuff and all of that. Honestly, my favorite thing, I love seeing Vision around the holidays with the kids, and I love the gag that we're filling in the blanks of these kids growing up, which we just saw before our eyes, went by like that. So we know all of this is complete baloney. And I just love the openings, fill in the blanks and making up like this fake, hey, here's Vision as a baby, which is impossible. We saw him essentially as a baby in Ultron. That's impossible.
So good.
I love seeing Santa Vision and that sort of stuff. So I love the opening scenes, a little bit of growing pains in there, a little bit of Full House, like them doing a little picnic thing in the set. That was a lot of fun. So again, it's kind of it's almost like a data sort of thing, like a matrixy sort of thing. We're filling in the we're creating as we're going along in the simulation. We're filling in these
God, I
blanks.
like that theory, Dragon. I like that theory a lot. I never really thought about the opening credits like that.
Well, that's what I'm saying, T. A lot of the episode is we're filling in. I mean, honestly, Wanda's whole thing subconsciously, if you look at this episode, all the action, especially with the kids' storyline, kind of the very sitcom-y storyline, is trying to distract from reality encroaching in. So it's the simulation trying to adjust and distract from any, any kind of any interruption in it, I suppose. Yeah.
So Catherine Hahn just steals the show as always, as she's always done. With my God, I think the creepiest moment of the whole show thus far, in my opinion, is the whole should I do that again? Do you want another take?
God, it's just so wonderfully eerie where we just stop the.
Envision is just like what?
Yeah, and Catherine Hahn, I think, is perfect casting, because I was actually talking about this with my brother and a friend of mine, where I think she first got on my radar when I watched the M. Night Shyamalan movie The Visit. She plays the mom in that movie.
Oh yeah.
And then the
sure.
next year she was in Bad Moms and the
Mhm.
Goosebumps movie.
Yes, she was hilarious.
That was her big one.
Yeah, and so it's I watched all these movies, and I wasn't a big fan of any of those.
Bad
movies,
Moms
but
is a movie where it's way funnier than the premise has any right to be.
I feel she's great in Spider-Verse. She plays Olivia Octavius in Spider-Verse.
And it's one of those things where she can do really broad comedy, like pratfalls, yelling kind of a thing, but then she can also do really kind of subtle stuff as well. And this is a role that's really in that second episode where they're doing the big talent show for the kids. She's really just hamming it up. Here she gets to
why don't you put in my husband Ralph?
Yeah. The devil's in the details. That's not the only place he is. But then in this episode, in the last one, where that whole facade just kind of goes away, and she gets to just sort of act like she's just at work or something, like an actress. It's really good. She's really good. She's quickly becoming one of my favorite character actresses, because she really does disappear.
Yeah, I hear you.
You want to see her in something really good of late, something she did before this. She was in the Mark Ruffalo thing on HBO. This Much I Know Is True. She has a small role in that, but it's a really effective role.
Well, now that I have HBO Max, I should probably check it out.
All right, let's see. Overall, I think my favorite thing of the episode too is we kind of see from the very beginning. Essentially, is I love how we kind of hit and we tee up the moral so perfectly. And we're utilizing the sitcom device so well in that Wanda's magic we see won't work on the kids, which of course leads later on to kind of our third act, if you will, where the moral is you can't fast forward, and kind of rewind your problems.
Pull a click.
Pretty much, but again, classier. But yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, a lot classier. Yes.
So again, I love the subtle setup that she's losing control over her fantasy world, and of course, enter Agnes, the '80s neighbor, who again is seemingly bringing everything right on cue, and Vision starting to kind of see through the through the fourth wall here a little bit here. As you ask Wanda for some direction. Can we do that again?
I think it's interesting because didn't last episode she was able to just sort of rewind time a little bit, and Vision wasn't aware of that?
Yes.
Is it a matter of
2 episodes ago technically, but
yeah. the last sitcom episode. So would
bees, my God.
would this be a like her losing control over it because she doesn't just jump cut back in time?
Well, I'm saying I don't think she can anymore. I think that's kind of what the subtle thing is. The kids, I don't know if it's possible the kids might have completely thrown things off, because essentially, again, we're all speculating, mind you, but again, these kids seem to be my prediction on the tragedy of these kids now is that they can only live inside the simulation. So if we shake this, or if we bring her out of it, those kids, it ain't going to be a happy ending. And I feel perhaps she's tampering with the laws of nature. Everything else is kind of changed and transformed within the reality. Those kids are completely a construct of this.
Those kids
reality.
They're absolutely going to die. I mean, it's they are not long for this world, and this show is not going to end without them dying and Wanda just going full on crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's also kind of a question of again. I think deep down morally, she's confronting the reality of her actions. And once Vision later on, he kind of literally confronts her with that. The whole reason she's doing all this. That's when she's kind of really losing her grip on things, and then something kind of outside her
He
power
has a
happens.
family, Wanda.
Oh god, seriously, how great, how great was he in this episode?
He's so good. I
Oh,
love
good.
I love
I
him at work.
honestly think Paul Bettany deserves an Emmy for this. I really do. I mean,
Paul
just
Bettany's
just
been
the
one of
way
like
that he's been able to just transition from like the hammiest sitcom acting into just like this whole like identity crisis. I don't know who I am, but I know this is wrong kind of thing.
Yeah. So yeah, essentially, she's being confronted with all that stuff here, and that's kind of shaking. That's why she's losing her power. I think that's why in those moments she can't control a thing. Either that, or she's just so stuck in what the moral of this episode of the sitcom is, she just can't for plot reasons. I
yeah,
mean, be the judge,
I really liked their argument scene at the end, and how she just wants to walk away from the thing, and so wants to walk away from
Credits.
the situation. So credits start rolling, but then the episode's not over, and like the construction, she's losing her grip on control of
Oh my
like the
god.
construction, and like so you get to see it all happen, and there was something really eerie about that, and like
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
something sort of emotionally bleak about that whole situation of seeing the credits roll, but the argument goes on. It was
And I
cool.
love that it's like the integral rule of the sitcom world. It's like you can't go to bed or you can't end the episode angry. You can't do that.
Right.
So therefore, Vision's got a window here, like hey, and then it's like the little floating argument.
I like that the first fight scene in this show was literally just like a fight, like
Yes.
a couple fight.
The couple's first fight. But speaking of which, I mean, just to kind of jump to that for a bit here, is that I love that in that scene we reveal that her whole modus operandi here, her whole like kind of the Vision kind of being the reason she's doing all this, is we definitely confirm on the outside world as well. Um, as we have been for a while now. That we just kind of literally saw the video footage. She's living out Vision's fantasy from Infinity War. Now he wanted to like kind of live the happy,
Yes,
kind of
yes.
live the couple's life, and that's essentially I did this for you, I did this for us, which essentially is a callback to that scene. And I love how deep we're making our pulls to kind of the last moments we had with these two crazy kids. Where Vision, if you remember Civil War, Vision had this really the Pepper Cash scene in Civil War, where they're having this conversation. I don't know what this is. I know it's Infinity Stone. I know it's from the Mind
Uh-huh,
Stones and Loki's staff and all, but I don't really know what this is. So Vision's always had a bit of an identity crisis, and this is really messing with him on that fundamental level of like, who am I now? I mean, especially if he's back from the dead. If he officially, again, it's almost like the Bates Motel thing. If he comes in the full Enfilgrada knowledge, then he's going to be in big. He's going to be in He's going to be in a big conundrum there. Like, oh my God, I really what am I?
I got a question then. This is like speculation. What do you think's going on with the Vision? Is it her memories of his personality occupying him, or what?
Well,
Oh
yeah.
man, I think that's probably like one of the best mysteries of the show. In the fact that like every episode they give like a little bit of information, but we're still not able to piece it together just yet.
Well,
Um,
I'm sorry, Tiki, go on.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
Well, yeah, it seems to me. So here's what we know. We know the Vision from that really haunting moment last episode. We know the Vision is
Hashtag zombie vision.
so she's taken Vision's pieces, put them back together, and reanimated the corpse. So that much we know. Now, what we also know, then again, this is the mystery of it all. We don't know how good a job she did because she just given that horrific vision. I think it's pure like she's putting the reality on top of the corpse versus like doing what Shuri was trying to do. Shuri was trying to keep him alive and remove the gem, which last I checked, Scarlet Witch isn't Shuri, so I don't think that's going to go well. But and just given this Vision's kind of a conundrum here, I think Connor's kind of right on the money there, and I think she's, as we've kind of been hinting at. There was another episode I can't remember off the top. It was either 3 or 4 where we had, no, it's probably 3, where she echoed lines from their last encounters, much like we do here. So she's created like the Vision program, if you will, from their happy Infinity War couple life and their hopes and dreams with each other. And then the simulation is kind of writing the data and writing kind of how that's writing the code of how that's going to go and interpreting what Vision would do, what he would do here. But again, the inevitability being if he's going to question his own reality, then things break down. So I think she thought about it to a point.
It kind of reminds me of Inception.
Where a little bit of that, like the whole if he starts questioning how we got in the French cafe, we're in trouble.
Well, no, it's like his wife character specifically, where
like
she's a projection of his subconscious, and at the end he's like, we did grow old together, but like I can't recreate you in like all your perfections and imperfections. Like humans are too complex to perfectly recreate out of memory. I'm wondering like if this is like her memory or whatnot, like what are the limitations, like because he can't seem to remember before the hex. So like I'm really curious to know what's going on here, and so I don't know, it's really fun to speculate about.
Absolutely, yes. Well, speculation galore. We have other things too. Should we talk about the big thing?
I want to highlight some comments really quick. So T Edge has a really insightful comment. Says, I like how each episode reflects the different stages of grief, and we are somewhere around the bargaining stage. And yeah, I never really looked at the show like that before, but you're right. That is another lens that you could look through, and it absolutely is Wanda going through the stages of grief when it comes to Vision's death. Totally.
Let's see. Just going through the 5 stages so far. Denial is obvious.
Mm-hmm.
Anger was kind of throwing. Well, we saw a little bit of anger here, but we've also seen like her just throwing Monica through the thing. They got bargaining, and what's next? Bargaining.
Acceptance is the last one.
Well, I know that it's the last one. Is there? Oh yeah, right. There's bargaining, and there was another one, but oh well. Yeah, well, point being, it sounds like it's on track. Yeah, go on.
The bargaining, yeah, I think like you can sort of see that kind of in the like Wanda when she's having to explain death to her twins, and you can't like just wish something out. You have to come to terms with that, and you kind of see that she's sort of realizing the hypocrisy of her own teachings when she's kind of going through that. And yeah, I don't know. I think that that's kind of a good way of approaching that stage of grief.
Okay, Donovan pointed this out, and I think it's creepy as hell, honestly. Just process it really quick.
Yeah, I've actually heard that theory way before the show actually got started.
Really?
Yeah. I can't remember what it was. It's just like some Marvel speculation video that might have popped up on autoplay. But I heard that. I'm like, that sounds crazy. And now I'm maybe not thinking it's that crazy.
Hey, if Better Call Saul can pull Frings back, then anything's possible.
Oh boy.
But yeah, just so what do you guys think of what's the guy's name? Norm?
Yeah, Norm.
Yeah, what do you guys think of that scene? That was definitely a big stand. I mean, first of all, we get the letter that's being, or the telegram that's being read in unison. That's creepy as fuck already. Oh man. And then of course the big moment, the whole like, I need to call my sister.
Our father's sick, he might basically say their father's dying. He wants to call the sister and find out what the heck's happening. How long has he been here?
Dragon, just imagine the horror of that, like where you're in the middle of a family situation like that, and you know that you need to attend to it, but you can't because your mind and your body is literally being held captive in this sick sitcom. It's so Twilight Zone-esque. I love
Jessica Jones to an extent, if you really think about it. It's the whole, it's kind of like all those poor people who've been Kilgraved, where they're like kind of playing out, they're just doing the command in their mind.
Let's see. Donovan, I think the closest we're going to get to a Doctor Strange 2 teaser is going to be Wanda will return in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, I think these properties up till this point have done a good job of being more or less isolated stories with connective tissue.
I absolutely, my theory still stands though. I really am in the camp that thinks Wanda is pretty much going to be the main villain of Phase 4.
Yeah, that kind of tracks. Like it's it's kind of interesting because like you say that and it kind of feels natural and right that if that's the case, this would be the first thing you'd open Phase 4 with. But it's sort of interesting that they were going to do Black Widow and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier first, and it seems like they were trying to like start Phase 4 off with a more like one foot still in. Hey, it's Black Widow before she died, and it's people doing Captain America stuff.
right.
Stuff from before Endgame, and they're trying to like ease you into a post Endgame world with stuff that is mostly concerned with stuff before Endgame. So I'm interested. So I think it's kind of interesting how the pandemic has sort of forced their hand on what their release strategy is going to be. But yeah, I'm interested to see how the Wanda character goes from here.
I like this idea because correct me if I'm wrong. We've never actually called her Scarlet Witch, right?
Okay, so I can confirm this. So the closest we've ever gotten to calling her Scarlet Witch was we've called her the Witch, but nothing else before. And it wasn't like an official code
so
name.
I think just the tease of Scarlet Witch will return. I think that would be great.
It would be pretty sweet.
Like that could be her villain name or something.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, I wanted to mention quickly about that work scene. First of all, it was really cool to go back to the office. I really like that in
the 80s computer.
Yeah, the 80s computer stuff. Yeah, that was good stuff. Also, it's weird then like I have like that scene also kind of hurts my brain a little bit because of the way Monica seems to be going up to bat for Wanda when I don't believe she would, especially with how we find out when people are under her spell, like what they're going through. And
that's actually a solid point.
And
well,
like Vision even says like they're in pain, Wanda. Like this is not good. And so I don't know. Like I we can get into the sword stuff when we get to the sword stuff, but I did like that scene on its own though.
I hear you on that, Connor, but here's the thing. I don't know if maybe this has an impact on is that essentially I can't pinpoint that exactly. I want to say at least for 9 days based on what we learned. But like the rest of the people in this town have been controlled for 9 days. Geraldine, just based on like kind of the day nights, because the idea is time runs linearly in this place, as in like day and night, just the kids keep appearing, and then like a 9-month pregnancy in a day. So we kind of mess with time like that, but essentially it's kind of day night. So roughly, Monica's been in there for a day, maybe 2. So it might not be as severe. But then again, 9 days has driven Norm to utter pain and madness. So I don't know where exactly the equivocation is there. But also, the thing with Monica, I'm really liking. I like that we're continuing this. Is that Monica seems to have the best shot at getting through to Wanda, given her own loss through some of her power and having and kind of grieving through that herself with the loss of her mother.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand that from a story level, like kind of thematically relating Monica to Wanda. A lot of my issue does not come from having a military presence or having this outside force or the function of sword. I think all of that on paper works. For me, it's all in the execution, and I think the execution really muddies what they're trying to do thematically.
Also, there's the little sitcom trope just to bring them up again. So with the kids, I love that we keep aging them up. So just kind of making fun of like in sitcoms sometimes. They're like, if you look at Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, it's like, hey, little Nicky was born at the end of the season. So next season comes around, he's 5 years old. And we have Jazz come in. It's, hey, wait a minute, why are you a different actress for the mother, the change of Vivian's? And why is this kid 5 years old now? And we throw him out of the house because we can't talk about these things.
But by the way, I do want to say, so I'm an identical twin. And twins represented in media has been one of the ongoing struggles of my life. Although it's not really a struggle, it's just a recurring annoyance.
Mild inconvenience.
It's just one of those things where it's like, oh, yep, they're doing twins again.
Okay, I brought up the Social Network. How do you feel about the twins in that?
I mean, I don't like the Social Network. I'm like the one person on planet Earth who doesn't like that movie.
Fair enough.
I don't like the way that Winklevoss twins are like presented in that movie.
We're twins, and there's
twins,
two of me.
They're always letting people know that they look the same, and they're basically the same person, but just multiplied by 2. They're not
I hear ya.
They do everything together because they are twins, and thematically it makes sense if 2 people are the same instead of just happening to be twins. So I don't know. It's like that's a recurring thing. Twins are usually just, it's a plot twist, or we're only making them twins because it's a thematic thing or whatever. And it was really cool. I actually, just based on this one episode, I like the way the twins are portrayed in this a lot. They have their own unique, like one of them has longer hair than the other. They have like their own unique style. They're not just wearing the same clothes. Like, it was like, hey, this is like what actual twins are kind of like. I like this.
You know what? I agree. That was a nice change of pace. That
I like how they're color coded, like the green one, the red one, very much like Vision and Wanda. You know?
Yeah, exactly. I remember growing up, like I always wore red, and my brother primarily wore blue, and like those were our favorite colors. And yeah, so that was really cool. I actually didn't notice that it was green and red, but that's a really good observation.
So we're getting a lot of Monica chatter. Perhaps we should just kind of talk about the Sword Monica stuff overall. So a big thing here, little observation with Monica Rambeau. So when she got that scan, she was scanned in the aftermath and did the whole kind of debriefing on what happened to her and there, how she felt, and just kind of assessing the situation. She got a CAT scan and like a bunch of blood samples taken. All of them were something was off with them. Now the speculation is that in the comics she becomes another Captain Marvel, essentially named Photon, which they foreshadowed. They kind of see it with her mother's call sign was Photon, and again, the origin of Monica Rambeau, essentially in the comics was that she was subjected to a lot of interdimensional, extra dimensional energy, and that kind of turned her into a superhero. Which, of course, if this show isn't showing extra dimensional energy, I don't know what is. So presumably this is leading some credence to her. Maybe the readings were inconclusive because she's in the middle of her origin right now.
Yeah, sure.
That's cool. So I'm gonna be that guy for the whole time we're talking about the sword stuff. So I'm gonna apologize right up front. So
Dragon's used to this, Conner. Trust me. I'm usually that guy, so this is a nice change of pace.
I never like being that guy, but sometimes we gotta be that guy.
It makes you feel better. You can be this guy.
It's just kind of part of Dragon and I's dynamic at this point, honestly.
Well, hey, I'm glad you guys are being good sports about it, because I try to not be as unbearable as possible when I'm being the dissenting voice. So thank you for putting up with me. I'll say that I thought it was like a weird thing. Okay, so I guess I should say one of the reasons I had a hard time with the previous episode was I thought we had a really solid introduction to Monica, and then immediately took her off the table and replaced her with Darcy. And I was like, what? No, don't do this. I like Monica.
Well, she did get sucked into another reality, though.
True. It's true. But then when we get this episode, I'm like, okay, well, at the very least, we're getting more Monica. I thought that was a really good introduction. And the first thing we see her do is like a weird action movie cliche where, okay, so if you have just been sucked into an anomaly that it was created like a sort of miniature Big Bang on Earth with technology and magic or whatever that we don't know anything about, and you get hurled out of it, and you're like, oh my God, it's all Wanda. And then the next thing you do is they're doing CAT scans and tests on you, and they're like, yeah, we got nothing. And you go, yeah, we're not doing another test. I'm doing whatever. What have you seen? Alien? What's going on here?
Well, to be fair, I think she's smart enough to realize, okay, if they didn't get anything on the first thing, obviously something's wrong, but I don't have time to worry about that right now. I was saying to her, she's got her prerogative set, but it's like, okay, look, if they're gonna run again, they're not gonna get new results. Obviously something's wrong, but she's compartmentalizing it.
I know, but like I think like were the situation flipped and somebody else came out of it, she would be one of the agents being like, we don't know what the problem is. We need to take you off the field just to be safe for like the safety of everybody here. But because she's like a main character, we're not going to do that. And I'm like, I don't buy this. Like, I feel
So
like
it's like
as far as like
it's kind of like one of the few examples of kind of like lazy TV writing that kind of slipped into the show.
yeah, and it was like I don't know. I feel like the sword subplot is like all like a lot of it feels like that to like
Right.
for me, like that's what I'm getting out of it. And so like it's kind of weird because you'll have the sitcom stuff, which I think is very, very smart and really clever, and it's using like the style and I don't know, every time like I see that aspect ratio go into anamorphic widescreen, my heart sinks a little bit. I go,
I know.
no, no,
I just
go
love that
back.
it's like, okay, we're shifting here. I love that that widescreen is like a big moment.
Yeah.
No,
But I thought
I'm
it
with you,
was
Connor, though. I'm with you because I feel like all the sitcom stuff. I mean, I don't think I dislike the sword stuff as much as you do, but I'm definitely of the opinion that the sitcom stuff is where the show is really thriving. It's obviously, the big hook of the show. It's where we're getting a lot of the big game changing elements from it. And then the sword stuff, I feel like the sword stuff is necessary for the grander narrative because you gotta have you gotta have characters outside of the bubble. And like I said, I also think it's a good experiment in kind of like moving some chess pieces around in the grand spectrum of the MCU. But I will agree, like in terms of like pacing and episodes and writing wise, like it definitely doesn't feel as fleshed out or as lovingly crafted as the sitcom stuff by
and
far.
I feel like my roommate had made this suggestion after we watched it. Like, what if the sword stuff was we were only seeing it from Wanda's point of view, where it was like drones would show up and she has
Uh,
to like sort of confront it, and then like we didn't see any of the actual sword stuff until she walked out of the
that'd
anomaly.
be interesting.
And like
Yeah,
they keep
yeah.
trying to communicate with her through the radio and whatnot.
Do you
And
think that
so
episode 4 maybe kind of blew a little bit too much of the mystery like all at once? Do you think it revealed a little too much?
yeah, I think it demystified a lot of what was kind of exciting about the what was happening outside of it. And like it was definitely a choice. I like like the sort of using the sword as like specifically with Jimmy Woo and Kat Dennings and well, not Monica yet, but like they're sort of like poking fun at people who speculate on television week to
Uh-huh.
week. And that was a fun idea.
Y'all, John Campea has been doing like 7 hours worth of feedback shows every week for this show. It's crazy.
And with this it was like there was a little bit more of that too, where you have like you had mentioned earlier where someone goes, what, did they recast Quicksilver? Like saying exactly what the audience is thinking. And I think that's funny. It's a different kind of satire than what the show was doing beforehand. I think what they were doing beforehand was just more up my alley.
Uh-huh.
So yeah.
All right. With that in mind, we probably should get into the big casting.
Well, all right, but we'll have to backpedal on some sword stuff, but sure.
Well, no. What do you want? Wait, Dragon, go ahead. Go ahead.
Right.
I don't want you to feel like you're left out.
Well, just something else to note with Monica is that we had kind of a distinct, there's a distinct vibe going around whenever Captain Marvel was brought, because they kind of called out the whole Thanos thing. Oh my God, the really awesome thing about Endgame is like Scarlet Witch could have taken out Thanos if they didn't rain down fire on her.
Uh-huh.
And they're bringing up, oh, Captain Marvel also still a good chance. And then again, you'll notice Monica had a bit of a reaction to Captain Marvel, a little negative. Like, let's not talk about her. So I think we're kind of teeing up some of the Captain Marvel stuff, like with the Miss Marvel show, which will eventually lead to Captain Marvel too. Is that I think best case scenario, what I'm getting the vibe of and I'm hoping for is that we're going to redeem Captain Marvel via this Monica Rambeau character.
Oh yeah, I mean it's pretty much kind of like how Mandalorian is trying to redeem the sequel trilogy. I get that same sort of vibe with this.
Yeah, and The other thing too is that my theory is that the reason she's a little cold shoulder in Captain Marvel right now is the fact that the end of Captain Marvel is, hey, I'm going to come back to get my jacket. What if she never came back until till Endgame, and hey, you left me waiting. You were very important in my life, and basically calls out Captain Marvel for the whole hey, where were you during all these other Marvel events, eh?
Right, yeah.
Could be a lot of fun. So it was a big thing. Then we'll get to the Pietro though. So Hayward. So a lot of people speculate Hayward's going to be a bad guy, and this episode gave some credence to if he's not bad, he's shady as all get out because the drone
he's
move.
Absolutely he's an antagonist for sure. I don't even think they're really trying to hide it at this point.
Yeah, because even Jimmy Woo loves everybody. He doesn't even like this guy. That's telling you something. But that's I love that. So he makes that drone move, or again, he has like a secret missile in the drone, which is really uncalled for. Where we see Monica might be making some headway there. This whole Vision's living will idea was really interesting. We see the footage of she swooped in there, she took the body back, and you see that body was already being deconstructed. Now think about it. They took 5 years because remember Hayward was around for the 5 years. So in all that time, he's taken like 5 years or so, maybe a little less, but still years, to dismantle a body instead of honoring the living will. Like, hey, Vision just wanted to be like either buried, destroyed, or repurposed or something. But these guys, they're taking an awfully long time. So I viewed that as this shady guy, they're going to try to repurpose his body. And they're not honoring his wishes either, yet they're labeling her a terrorist. What gives, man? That guy's shady. I don't trust that Hayward guy. All right, so yes.
Yeah. If I may,
yeah, sure.
I don't want to play Hayward's advocate, but to play Hayward's advocate, this is like one of the weird things about the show where. So this is weird because usually I usually really like Randall Park. I don't know what it is about like Jimmy Woo, but like in Ant-Man and the Wasp and this I feel like I don't know what it is, but like his performance is just kind of off to me. Like I can't even like really put my finger on exactly what it is. It almost feels like he's like delivering his lines in a deliberate way where it's like an inside joke with like friends he has, and the joke is that he's delivering his lines as like bluntly as I don't know. I don't know. It's really hard to explain. And like so and then you got like what's her face? Kat Dennings' character is like who she likes and who she doesn't like seems like really arbitrary to me. And it seems like she doesn't like Hayward, and we're not supposed to like Hayward at first because he's stern to her. And bad people are stern in movies. And it's like, well, she's kind of being a little diva who's breaking protocol and stuff. It's like
I disagree with that because there was nothing like that in that 4th episode. And it's kind of starting now where we're really seeing that. I don't agree
but
with
then
that.
then in this one, in the last episode, you had like her being like he's like, hey, what's the problem here? She's like, well, okay, I'm gonna need some coffee and I'm gonna need some. And no one's listening. She's like, well, I want some coffee. Really? No one's getting me coffee?
Oh, Colin, you're overplaying that, but it was like, okay, no coffee.
That's what it came across to me. And it's like it's very passive aggressive.
I think that's some Darcy Lewis bias, man. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe it is. I find passive aggressive people annoying, and so because people don't want to get her coffee, she doesn't like them. So we're not supposed to like him because he didn't get her coffee, and when she's trying to do something, she's being snippy and short with him because he didn't get her coffee. So we know he's a bad guy because he didn't get her the coffee.
And yet the whole firing a missile on a woman and children, that's not raising a red flag to you at all.
It does. Okay, I'm getting there. So basically what it does is because I feel like the show has made Darcy unlikable, I'm like, okay, I kind of want to be on this guy's side right now. And so then he's kind of stern, but hey, maybe he's an okay guy. And so I got a whole nother thing about Monica coming out and like defending her. I don't get why she does that. So she comes up with Hex, which is a clever thing, but because she acts like it's super clever, I kind of don't want to give her that.
Oh, Conner, so petty.
It's petty, yeah, I know.
Okay, I will say that whole like, you said it, like that was a little much.
It's okay. I mean, compared to what she used to do in the Thor movies, come on.
I mean, what she used to do.
I haven't watched the
just
Thor
say
movies in
Mia,
so long,
don't
I
know.
honestly don't remember.
Better than Mew Mew.
Yeah, she went Mia, and that was kind of annoying. But anyways, this is like I fully recognize what I'm doing is just nitpicking a bunch. But what I'm getting at though is like if something's just not playing for you, little things stick out and will just rub you the wrong way.
I guess.
And but then there's like that part where it comes down to it and they're like, hey, look, we got reason to believe that Wanda's like really dangerous and we got to make sure that like she doesn't hurt anybody. And they're like, oh yeah, where's your proof? I've seen Marvel movies and I know she's a good guy. And they're like, oh, here she is breaking into Sword headquarters, stealing the body of Vision. Now I know they were maybe doing some shady stuff on Vision. I'm not defending that aspect of it. His point does still stand. She straight up broken and possibly hurt employees at Sword and is now taken over a small town in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, like her being labeled as a terrorist, it's a potentially, reasonable thing to do. I would say that's a pretty reasonable thing. She's acting kind of violently by taking away an entire town's bodily autonomy. That's kind of terroristy, right? I don't know. And then,
I think what we're kind of leaning towards here, Conner, is that the truth lies somewhere in the middle. Is that yes, obviously Wanda, we're building her in the villain category here, but it's villain with layers, and also Sword, they're not completely clean in this so far.
Oh yeah, totally. And like I appreciate the concept of the ambiguity.
Yeah.
And it's just that I feel like specifically like if you had Sword painted as one way and Wanda painted as another way, I would get it. It's like this weird like two factions within Sword because we need to present them as a sort of like stern, shady bureaucracy, but also there are the good Sword agents. And then I feel like that kind of plot is like taking away from the stuff that's happening within the hex, which I am really invested in. And so like when you have like all this kind of stuff going on, then the big plot is we're gonna blow up Wanda with an 80s drone. I'm thinking, why would you do this? If you blow her up, you're gonna hurt people, right? So, and if your whole plan was just to blow people up, why are you going to be all stern about it? And I don't know, like it was a lot of the stuff with all of the people in Sword, because they've kind of created this internal struggle within Monica and Jimmy Woo and Darcy versus like Hayward and some of the shady people. They've kind of built up this conflict within Sword. I don't like that conflict very much, and I think a lot of it relies on a lot of shortcuts to say this guy's good, these people are good, these people are good, this person's bad, what they're doing is shady, and they got tricked. And it's like when people, I don't know, like I'm not articulating myself very well. I'm trying to get
I hear your points. I get you. I hear where you're going. Yeah. All right. Let's talk Pietro. Tiki.
Yo.
Let's talk our big fancy guest star.
Well, I mean, he was kind of like a miniature Luke Skywalker, right? Where it's like, you had the knock at the door, and we've already mentioned Pietro this episode. So as soon as the knock on the door happens, you kind of just like, it's like the X-wing flying in, right? You're kind of just like, no.
I like that there is a misdirect if you really look at it, though. I love that. I was kind of caught up in it. Is from behind, because a part of me is wondering, okay, it's a 50-50 shot here. It could be the big fan theory, or it could be, actual Aaron Taylor Johnson. Because from behind, you've got like they gave him like the back, and Aaron Taylor Johnson's hair had like the dark thing towards the bottom, which this guy had from the back. But we go from the front.
If it was Aaron Taylor Johnson, I honestly would have been so disappointed.
Oh, well, the point being, we didn't. Well, I'm saying, honestly, a part of me was expecting, had they just had to be Aaron Taylor Johnson now, perhaps then they would have had Evan Peters, like when they would have recast him in another episode.
Right.
But no, seriously though, so yeah, we have Evan Peters, man. Of course, the X-Men's version of Quicksilver. That's huge.
I absolutely do not think this is some sort of like alternate dimension shenanigans. I think this is simply, it's kind of like a Wonder Woman 84 kind of situation where either the spirit of Pietro or just like the memories of Pietro are being inhabited by a guy who is kind of like an avatar. You know what I mean?
Tiki, I think the running theory, if it's not going to be the multiverse thing, the logical thing is that there's just a New Jersey resident that looks like Evan Peters.
Exactly. That's the theory I'm going with, just because I don't want to get too excited about a potential like all the X-Men are on the table now. Like that would be nuts, but I don't want to get too excited.
I mean, Tiki, if they went this far to get him in there, do you really think Marvel of all they're gonna stop? Just like, and no, it's the guy who looks like him. I mean, come on.
I gotta say, I really appreciate the pun, Dragon. That is a running theory. I appreciate that.
Maybe I'm just traumatized by Wonder Woman 84. I don't know.
I mean, look, it's the easy. It's the cheap way to go, but I don't think they're gonna go that way. I think they're gonna go the full. I mean, let me tell you why. Okay, here's my theory as to why it's a multiverse thing. So, I'm outside the obvious, like, oh look, it's the guy from the X-Men movies. Outside of that, just to backtrack to something that kind of led to this. Sparky. So the dog subplot of the episodes. By the way, Sparky is a big Tom King nod to the Tom King book, where the kids had a dog that they turned essentially Vision turned into like a Vision dog, which was named Sparky. Now, obviously, they didn't go that full route here, which is really dark in the book. But the point being, we have a little cute little dog the kids like. Really so cute, and of course, the dog is an allegory for Vision. It's kind of representing the temptation of Wanda's acts of like, hey, we want a dog, and of course, the big moment is that we kill off Sparky in kind of the dramatic, a very special episode kind of way. And basically, it's the symbol for Vision, the loss, and like again, how you need to cope versus like you can't undo it, you can't bring him back to life. And those kids, so heartbreaking. Those kids saying, "You make him not dead anymore. Bring him back. You can do that." And of course, then Vision walks in, so it just seeps on. You're like, "Oh, the dog is Vision." Like, oh. So again, I love it. Agnes kind of knows. Agnes is like, you can do that. Agnes is my theory with Agnes, by the way, is that. Again, pretty much it hasn't really changed all that much. Again, I'm going with the whole Agatha Harkness thing, that she's a witch that potentially guided her on how to do this reality warping thing. And it's the fact that Agnes seems to be a cut above the episode here when she kind of knows, like, hey, Wanda's doing this magic, and she's kind of turning a blind eye to it. The whole, like, hey, you don't even have to cover your face around Agnes anymore. Let's not keep it secret. That suggests to me that, hey, Agnes might know more than she's letting on to. So I think it's kind of where we're building. But anyway, so I'm sorry, my Sparky point is that. So again, so the dog kind of leads to the big argument between Wanda and Vision, which is the whole like, who am I? What is my role here? If you're basically constructing this reality, which he's not fully aware of yet, but the whole you're my husband and everything here. And then Pietro walking into the episode comes at a point where literally Vision just got through to her in that moment. He did. He emerges just as Vision gets through to her about kind of remorse for what she's doing, just seeing that you're hurting people, Wanda. You can't do this. And just the moment, again, the reality resets itself. Okay, we need something big to get Wanda out of this. And as far as the way Elizabeth Olsen plays this scene, I don't think Wanda intentionally did this. I think subconsciously she did this, and it's her mind like doing like an Inception-like projection thing to kind of pull from Connor's point earlier, is that Pietro just kind of shows up, but assumedly, because I don't think we can bring his body back from the dead that easy, given he's not like like a robot that we just dug up the corpse with. I don't know. We don't know where Pietro's body is. Probably in Sokovia somewhere. She opened a pocket dimension and brought him from another reality. So I think that's like her power just getting so strong to keep her within the delusion. It pulled from another reality, and we've established she's been getting stronger and stronger, and the power of the Infinity Stone and everything. So I think she's literally tore into the reality and pulled another Pietro out to overcome and just say like, hey, Wanda, you can bring people back from the dead in a sense. Here you go. Don't worry about what Vision's saying. Death is an illusion. Ooh, Donovan's got a good theory here that Agnes killed the dog. Oh my God.
I could see that. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. Was it a dog, like a random feral dog that just got sucked into the hex? And then it's just been running around. It's like, this doesn't belong here. Quick, kill it.
It's probably a Jersey dog. And also, there is an interesting question that Vision raised towards the end there, too. Vision asked where are all the children, because there are playgrounds. and the children are kind of gone. And I mean, that's another. We didn't think about this, but I mean, there is. Well, no, because they start off as babies, so it'd be impossible. So no, she can't. No, those kids are purely a creation. But the other kids are gone, and we know a Halloween episode is coming. And if I recall, I think there were kids in that. So I think those
That's a
kids.
good point. That's interesting.
So either she's creating a whole bunch of kids, or most likely a town that would have had at least one, like a couple kids in, even if it's a small town. They've been kept somewhere. I think like one has been saved for an occasion or something.
Huh.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, I remember taking notice of like the lack of kids in that second episode where it's like, we're doing this for the kids, the fundraiser
For the
kids.
children.
And there's like no kids anywhere. It's like, this is kind of weird.
Yep.
So with Pietro, I was a little thrown off by the accent. I guess it's probably just a sitcom stylization thing.
He's doing like a Fonzie thing.
No, I know, I get that.
Who's the popsicle?
Who's the popsicle?
Okay. So this was one of the weirdest things because I thought I had this cameo spoiled for me, but I was trolled. So I was told that that Doctor Strange appeared at the end of this. So when it showed the back of like their head and it was all gray, I'm like, oh, okay, so Doctor Strange is like all gray now. Okay, got it. And then like and then the door opens and it was like I had like a weird delay where it was like I look at it and like just the thought of seeing Evan Peters in a Marvel movie, like I just maybe unconsciously abandoned that from my brain forever. Like that's never gonna happen. Whatever. So like just seeing him for like the split second, I thought, who is that? And then
Yep.
after that split second, I was like, oh my god. That was really cool. And where this is going, man, I don't know. Like, I think, like, I don't want to have like all of the Fox X-Men people just show up, but at the
I
same
agree.
time,
I think they need to do like a trickle.
yeah, at the same time though, like, it would be just kind of really weird that if you just brought in the actor who just happened to play him in the more popular who played the more popular Quicksilver in another adjacent series of movies that have been happening and like all of that stuff. Like I don't know how yeah, I don't know. But I'm definitely hooked. A theory my roommate has was that the reality stone is in play here. Because like Wanda's powers have been kind of ill-defined, but she gets her powers from the Mind Stone.
Yes.
And her powers in the past have been kind of causing hallucinations, not like altering reality the way that they're kind of vaguely defined in the comics. And so when she like walks back into the hex after throwing the drone down at the sword people and she walks back in, like it ripples red is all over this show, like the wall, like when that 60s episode when it turns to color, there's red all over the walls. When it was black and white, the only color was red. Like red is all over this. And
Oh yeah.
and so
Have you heard the theory about the stones?
I have not.
Okay, so this episode gave a lot of credence, given speaking of the reality stone. There's been this theory that so far seems like it might be true. All the commercials have had something that may be an allusion to an Infinity Stone, and we know we're getting at least 6 episodes out of the 9. So surely
Yes.
we'll be able to include them. So now, like for example, the toaster, either the Power Stone or the Mind Stone. Some people are on the fence about which one it is, but even if it is a stone, that one's possibly a stone. But outside of that, you have the second commercial was about a watch, the Time Stone. Then you have what?
Oh, I just was like, gotcha.
Yeah. And then you have the third one, the soapbox. The Hydra soapbox was a cube, just like the Tesseract, the Space Stone.
Huh.
And you have this episode, which again was the spilling the red liquid, which is very ether-like, very reality stone ethery, like like the liquid stone. So
Wow, I think you're onto something.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
And again, the theory I heard before, but again, didn't have like visually connected to all the commercials, was that the Infinity Stones, somehow she might have been able to tap into the stones through her own powers. Like again, if she can, kind of go into, somehow she's able to access the Reality Stone, and possibly somehow have tapped into to all the Infinity Stones, which may cause the somehow may cause the multiverse of madness. Because think about it, the CMT, the abbreviation that Darcy gave last episode as to what the radiation is a radiation caused, a cosmic radiation caused by the Big Bang, which created the Infinity Stones. Basically, the Big Bang spread out the Infinity Stones. Therefore, all this radiation is kind of cosmically linked to the Infinity Stones. So maybe all that radiation could call to mind other Infinity Stones. Or again, if she somehow broke through a reality, either through magic, whatever Agnes taught her, assuming she is Agatha or whatnot, perhaps she tapped into some other other realities version of the Infinity Stones. I don't know. I can't tell you. But the Infinity Theory's bound, folks. The Infinity Theory's bound. A lot of ways they can go with that. Be interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe somebody has control of the Reality Stone, and she struck a deal with that person. And
maybe a Mephisto. Some people have speculated.
Like a friend of mine is
Jimmy Woo is Mephisto.
is like a friend of mine is all in on the whole something satanic is going on here. Whether it's like, maybe making a deal with somebody who holds a Reality Stone is that's like a deal with the devil, in a more like in a symbolic way. But yeah, maybe there is like literally Mephisto is around. That would be awesome. I think.
I don't mean to double down the whole Agatha Harkness thing, but there was another theory brought up, and this one might have some credence. Her little pendant. Some people have said it looks like the Grim Reaper. Other things, the other theory people have kind of locked in on is if you look the symbol, it's kind of a Thor connection. It's a Thor connection in that it's kind of a three. I don't know if like the three fates is the right word, but like basically these three witches from Norse mythology. That basically in the deleted scene in Age of Ultron, which of course very much connects to Wanda and Vision, the big weird Thor's kind of bath scene in Age of Ultron. The deleted scene actually gave you more information as to what was going on there. He was being possessed by those witches. Then presumably Agatha connects to those witches, and that might be like a connect. And those witches knew about the Infinity Stones.
Okay, yeah.
So again, we hope like the whole sword idea. Sword was supposed to be in the Thor movie. That got repurposed for here, so it's entirely possible. Like we're recycling things from the Thor movies and making them work somehow. I don't know.
Man, there's a lot. Again, this is one of those things. Was usually speculation is not something I indulge in. It's not necessarily my thing. But when it comes to this show, I can't help but speculate. And I think for me, that is like one of the highest compliments I can give a show. Where if I'm so hooked, I have to start speculating about it.
Absolutely. Last thing I just want to kind of highlight, just to get in there, Wanda's big moment, which we kind of talked around a little bit. It's really awesome. She comes out there in kind of the the Infinity War, Civil War get up. She's the accent is returned, I think, with purpose, given we're going back to her villainous kind of roots, again, kind of quasi-villainous roots in Ultron, given her the way she's acting now, and pulls a big Magneto nod with all the guns being turned on Hayward.
Yeah.
Yep. And again, I don't know if we're going to get full Magneto, but again, like we're kind of evoking.
I think the running theory right now is that the big end point of this show is going to be either Captain Professor X or Magneto.
Well, if it's going to be anyone, it's going to be out of those two, it's got to be Magneto. Let's be honest. But I'm sorry, Tiki, you bring up an excellent point though. Everyone has been the big question: who's going to be the Luke Skywalker of this season? Now, of course, the running thing was going to be Evan Peters. That's the running one, but again, the cat kind of came out of the bag there. So there's a question if we're still going to have kind of a big Luke Skywalker by the end of this. Now, I think the simplest answer is Doctor Strange, given the the connection appeal. Like, okay, well, the next one, Doctor Strange is at the very end. Like, okay, I gotta deal with this mess now, and okay, Doctor Strange. there was a big Easter egg in this. Some people have a really good theory about it. Monica Rambeau knows an aerospace engineer. Many people speculate, given the cosmic radiation and everything and all that sort of stuff this season, this show. Reed Richards.
That would be bonkers.
That would be
bonkers.
That'd be your Luke Skywalker right there, buddy boy.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, like, oh my God, Krasinski, what are you doing here? We just had the Office episode.
Or if Conner is making this show, oh, Billy Crudup, thank God you're here.
I didn't think that's a good pick. I never thought of that. That's good.
Watts as Reed and Sue. I don't care how old they are. Specifically, I think Naomi Watts is 50 now. I don't care. Make it happen, Marvel.
Well, you can always have an older Reed Richards, so yeah, it'll always,
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to Reed and Sue being a more kind of like a more middle-aged couple. I think that'd be an interesting take on it, actually.
My perfect casting will never do it. I want Michael Sheen as Reed Richards, but that's never gonna happen.
Would be so good.
He's my guy. I want him as he's always been my Reed Richards go-to, but they'll never cast him.
Oh, dude. Now you're making me sad because you're right, they'll never do that. Oh man. Oh man, yeah. So okay, if we're on the subject of Fantastic Four, I've always thought it would be like if you had to inject the Fantastic Four, like you can do the origin now. You just got to make it like, let's say in 2012, like Reed and Sue and all of them, like they were able to get a lot more funding for their science stuff because after the attack of the Chitauri, people developed more of an interest in like wacky otherworldly science. And so they've been like developing like crazy experiments since 2012, and now they're going to space, and that's how you can do their origin now.
I'm going to raise you one better, Conner, in the same vein of your logic. We got to taper it off though, because you don't want to go too Fantastic Four heavy. So SWORD has sent people into space, including Monica. So perhaps in the 90s, when they're getting their feet off the ground, and again, as a way of maybe a nod to the Roger Corman Fantastic Four in a small way, in the 90s, our earliest version of this, perhaps the first people to go up in space and didn't go so well were the Fantastic Four.
Ooh, and like they go through like a time anomaly and come back, or
yeah. Well, yeah. So of course, I love the whole time anomaly thing. The idea being like, what if they were in the 60s? They tried this, and then they come back in kind of modern day now. That'd be awesome. But I mean, again, the point being like them going to space. I mean, the SWORD thing gives them a great offshoot to go into space. But anyway,
that is true.
The last theory I've heard, maybe to mention that, honestly, I think we might have covered the gambit, is some people are speculating Tony Stark, given and as I know, a long shot as it may be, that in some way, shape, or form, again, in terms of like a big Luke Skywalker kind of get, it could be Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, because Vision. I'm not putting a lot of credence in it, but the logic is Vision is going. If he eventually comes up to date on things and he finds out what's been going on the outside, because one is saying you don't want to know what's been going on outside there. If he finds out, Tony Stark died, I'm sure Vision, because he missed out on all that. I'm sure he's gonna be really bummed out about his creator essentially kind of his creator dying, and at the very least, imagine if Downey Jr. came in for one of the creepy commercials,
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
that would be that'd be really good.
Although I don't think that would be a Luke Skywalker level cameo though, honestly, just because I feel like Luke Skywalker came right the hell out of nowhere.
I'm gonna disagree with you. Like, I guess maybe I had a different take on the Luke Skywalker cameo, where I kind of saw that one coming a little bit. But if they did like Downey Jr., that would kind of like, I would do a spit take if they like actually did that. That would be like Luke Skywalker ×2 or something. That'd be crazy.
Fair enough. I'm of the opinion right now that after Endgame and with both Cap and Iron Man, it's like we got to sit them out for a while, for those moments to have any sort of impact.
That's true. No, you're
right. I really don't think they're. I mean, story wise, I don't buy them going Downey Jr. But it's just this. It's just if they're going completely out of left field, it'd be, oh my God, we got Iron Man. We didn't think he was on the table. We got him in there.
Yeah. Man. Yeah, there's a lot of directions this could go.
As Donovan says here, like even more heartbreaking that Vision doesn't remember Jack. Yeah, that's really sad. Also,
I'm
Doctor
so
Strange
sorry.
and Mom. We can't wait for Doctor Strange Mom.
I think my brain just short circuited. Who's Jack?
No, I think this means he doesn't remember Jack, like Jack Squat.
Oh, Jack Squad. Okay. I'm like, Jack? You mean the guy from the beginning of BVS who died in the
No, not.
Jack,
Wait.
get out of there, Jack!
Oh god, or like maybe it's talking about Jack Murdoch. Wouldn't that be great?
Oh, that'd be awesome. What if Vision just all of a sudden has memories of like the other Marvel movies? Like he starts to remember, like, oh, there was Ben Affleck as Matt Murdock, and
Oh God.
Okay, we've gone off the rails.
yeah, I'm sorry.
Nicholas
Oh,
Cage, Ghost Rider.
There was a man who rode a bike. He looked like that guy from Wild at Heart.
No, actually, wait a minute. That would, again, if we do the Mephisto route and Ghost Rider shows up, there would be your.
I have wanted to see. I know we technically had Ghost Rider with Agents of Steel, but I want to see legitimate Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider.
We did not. We had Ghost Rider, but not that good. We didn't have the original.
Yeah, I want to see Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
Or even better, I would like to see a Ghost Rider movie set in the Wild West with the Sam Elliott character.
Yeah. Oh man, I would love to see, like, if we started to do like DC Marvel crossovers, like Western Ghost Rider crossing over with Jonah Hex.
Oh man.
I mean, not Josh Brolin, Jonah Hex, a new Jonah Hex, but yeah.
All right, but yeah. So overall, solid episode. Pretty cool.
I think that's pretty fair to say. Yeah.
Thank you guys for putting up with my whining about Sword.
It's all good. It's all good. It's all good, Connor. Like I said, this channel is kind of like based on Dragon and I's dynamic. It's kind of like based upon having differing opinions. So don't worry about it. Differing opinions are welcome.
Yeah, we're not going to call the ambulance on you. You're okay.
Oh God.
Oh, right on.
All right. So yeah, Connor, big thanks to you for being here. And big thanks, let's see, in the comments we have Donovan Martin, T-Edge, and of course, Claude Karinga. I think that's everyone who showed up this evening. All right, so yeah, that's it, folks. We'll be back next Sunday. And that'll do it for us this week as we holster our remotes till the next installment calls for the draw. Mano y mano. Just Plus and Us.
Norm!
Hey, who's the popsicle?
Who's the popsicle? Don't